So Nintendo just announced that Chris Pratt is doing the voice for Mario in the Mario Motion Picture Show. That's coming out Christmas, holiday 2022. At first, here was my thought. My thought was, you got to get the money to make your movie, right? And I mean, I remember back when they were thinking, or they actually did put Brett Ratner as a director, who's not a very good director at all, on God of War. And, we didn't have final say on director. We could kind of say no to like up to 2 or 3 choices, then they got to pick. Ratner would have not been someone I would have been okay with. But what happens in movies, for the most part, because they're so expensive, and I understand the logic behind it, is there are things, both directors and actors and actresses and whatnot, that are bankable. And a lot of times, I'll tell you, I think the same thing happened with Uncharted. I don't think Uncharted was necessarily a movie that demanded to be made. I think Sony's happy to make it, PlayStation's happy to make it, but the minute Tom Holland's in and Mark Wahlberg's in, they could have said, we want to change Uncharted to be about 2 guys that are map makers, and it's all about the history of 2 guys that competed making maps back in the 1800s. I mean, it could have been anything. Sony would have been like, we got Tom Holland, we got Mark Wahlberg, we can sell out over the world, we don't give a fuck what it is, right? I mean, it's not that bad, but it goes a long way to getting your money when something's expensive. So I understand. My initial knee-jerk upon hearing this was, well, I think it's terrible creative casting, but maybe that's what they needed to get the money. Then I started thinking about it, though, right? And I think it's terrible creative casting, by the way, because Mario is an Italian guy. And even if I haven't looked at the Nintendo wiki, maybe he's not, like, officially, because maybe he doesn't even understand what the world of Italy is, right? There's no American cities or worldwide continents. It's like, what's the place he goes to in Odyssey? It's not called New York. It looks like New York, but it's not. So maybe Nintendo's answer is, well, he's not, we've never said he was Italian. It's like, okay, but he's fucking Italian, right? It's a me. It's the kind of semi-racist, like George Lucas doing the our negotiations are perfectly legal Japanese accents. Come on. He from the day one. And I'm not saying they should or shouldn't have hired Charles Martinet to be Mario. I don't give a shit about that. I mean, if maybe he's not a good actor. I don't fucking know. I don't care. I mean, personally, I care, but, it's not the point. But on one hand, at first, I was like, I get it because you need the money, you need the bankability. And then I'm like, you know what? No. Nintendo's not like Marvel back in the day that was almost bankrupt. And they were like, thank God, let's just give away Spider-Man to Sony and give away Blade or whatever because we have to stay afloat. Nintendo's making probably more money than they ever have. Switch is doing brilliantly, right? Their mobile division's doing pretty gosh darn good. They don't need to make a Mario movie. And so at that point you go, I don't think this is bad casting in the sense that I'm sure the people who are making the movie are like they did tests and they, just like you saw like Toy Story with Tom Hanks, they took stuff from Turner and Hooch and animated Woody and showed it to Tom Hanks. I'm sure they animated Mario with Chris Pratt's voice and said, hey, this does work. You got to get used to it a little bit if you're a fan, but it'll be fine. I'm sure it will be fine if you don't go in knowing Mario, but it's fine, whatever. If it's a good movie, I'll see it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm so upset. But it is kind of shitty, though. It is kind of telling that Nintendo, who has one of the most recognizable character brands in the universe, in the known universe, is okay to get a movie made, is okay kind of going, yeah. Illumination or whoever the fuck they are, the guys making Minions and stuff, which are sort of B-grade Pixar. It's like, yeah. Oh, is that how Hollywood works? Says Sony, says Nintendo, you need a name. Okay, well then the decades of Mario being, it's a me, Mario, and all that. Fuck it. Yeah, get rid of that. We don't care. We want to be on the big screen. We want to compete. I'm not saying that's their logic. But it feels like that, and it feels fucking shitty. And it doesn't matter. No, I'm not upset about it. Oh, it's a movie. If it's good, I'll see it. But it's more of it's more of I think why it bothers me a little bit more than usual would be because it's more of that desire I always see since I got into the business, and I was part of this desire for a while, not anymore, for games like to be so envious of Hollywood that you would do anything to get your movie made. You would do anything to sort of just get a nod of respect or accolades or acknowledgement from that medium. And it's like Nintendo, Mario is beloved all over the world. Part of why he's beloved is the way he talks, the kind of character vibe, you know? Now, maybe they did say, it's a Mario, if it, you know, that's a spicy meatball. If you're old, you know what I'm talking about. That may very well be incredibly offensive. Like if you actually want to take that and trot that out as a full character, but you could still have him be an Italian character or an Italian adjacent, sort of in a fantasy Italian world character, and be respectful of sort of the heritage of the character and the history of the character. Instead, it's like, let's get the whitest, waspiest motherfucker you can think of who sounds nothing like Mario, that we've come to love as Mario, and let's put him in because he's bankable. The only thing they could save this with, and it would still be clearly something the writers came up with to figure this out, would be if it was something like he starts off with Chris Martinet's voice and suddenly he gets warped into New York City and comes back to the Mushroom Kingdom and suddenly he sounds like Chris Pratt. It's like, this is crazy. But we get Chris Pratt. I mean, you know, maybe. But they're not doing that because that's the world's best story. They'd be doing something like that because they got Chris Pratt and they need to write around how the fuck to explain Chris Pratt as Mario. If you're Nintendo and you're not going bankrupt and they're not, it feels like they're not respecting their properties and just because they want to get a fucking movie. Who gives a shit about being on a big screen? Jesus fucking Christ. It's not 1980 anymore. Video games are the premier medium of the future and mostly of the present. Whether you're talking mobile games, console games, PC games, what have you. The idea that you want to rub shoulders with the Hollywood elite, that needed to go away in the early 2000s. The fact that people are still giving a fuck if Hollywood comes a-calling, who gives a shit? Jesus fucking Christ. I'm more upset about what it means. I don't give a fuck. I'll see it. I like Chris Pratt. He's a good dude, as far as I know. I like a lot of his movies. I'm sure it'll be a good movie, good enough movie. I'll watch it when it streams or whatever. But at a creative level and at a level of what it means or what it seems like it means, I don't like this at all.